Welcome to the 2023 Economic Preparation and Depression channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me on this weekend edition, January 14th, 2023. We're halfway through the month of January, just about. Happy MLK, Dr. Martin Luther King Day weekend to everyone. Many people have a 3-day weekend. And so we want to take time to honor the dream, the vision that included not only freedom and equality for all, but we're going to talk about economic freedom. That was part of the dream too as well, that we all strive for in the system of America and capitalism, to break free from that as well. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about this a little bit about inflation, how Americans are spending an extra $300 to $400 a month because of the inflation cost and all of the different utility bills and different things that have gone up. And some of the excuses used, that preparing infrastructure and different things of that, as using an excuse to justify the price increases that are going to be happening this year and next year. And so we all have to prepare for that in one way or the other. So let's get right into it. Right now, we briefly have this opinion by MarketWatch.com. This was yesterday. Let's remember that Martin Luther King dream included, quote, full employment for all. The federal government should subsidize jobs so communities with high unemployment can share the nation's prosperity. One of the things that we have here, as you can see, in America, we have this system of, the ultra rich, the 1%, the 99% versus everybody else. A lot of times that tends to be in the past, it tend to be minorities, African Americans, etc. But discriminated against as far as the high unemployment was higher. Unemployment was higher, I should say, rather than African American men communities and women communities and other things, as you know, the history of the country, etc. But I want to talk about the full employment for all. That is one of the things that Federal Reserve President Jerome Powell was trying to get to at this full employment. Right now, unemployment is sitting at 3.2%, but we have massively amount of people that are underemployed. That meaning they're working 2 or 3 jobs to make one full-time job income in many of the major cities of this country, like Chicago, Baltimore, New York, D.C., L.A., Philly. You name it, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston. So this is part of the dream that we're working towards now that's being shattered. The United States has an income inequality and is one of the most extreme income inequalities around the world. And many other places are dealing with this too. Many of the bigger G8 economies are dealing with this too, this poverty amid prosperity. How can you be the richest nation in the world but have so much homelessness in states like California, Texas, Florida, other states, New York, D.C., but at the same time, we have this paradox where people are actually, this is the best time ever for opportunity, and even in the depression for making money. But at the same time, you have a massive amount of people who are underemployed or unemployed or just, out of the system altogether. And so this is going to be one of the things that watch heading toward the depression, heading toward the recession that everybody says is coming this year and next year. See, the eliminating disparity between black and white jobless rates will provide employment for about 1.5 African Americans, with roughly, quote, additional $70 billion in wages going to black communities. And obviously in predominantly white communities such as Appalachia, they have high rates of joblessness too. And also with Hispanic communities as well, so job communities, joblessness as well as a big thing too as well. So what is needed is businesses and public services to develop skills and products that benefits communities and drive economic expansion. Unfortunately, we don't have, like during the Great Depression that they started the New Deal, as you guys know. The Works Progress Administration, quote, provided funding for state and local governments to put millions of unemployed Americans to work in roads, bridges, parks, and other infrastructure, most of which is still used today, as you know. The problem is, now we're going into this great recession, as I like to call it, that's going to last the next 10 years. We're just starting the beginning of it. We hadn't gotten into it too deep. But we can't put people to work like we did in terms of building roads, parks, and schools, because now we're moving into a technocratic economy. And with the technocratic economy, robots are going to be replacing a lot of the physical work that's done on these manufacturing plants, as you know, and things of that nature. So that's going to be the big issue there. American businesses, even though they've shipped jobs overseas and trying to bring them back, they don't want to pay the workers. They're tired of unions. They're tired of the grievances and paying all the benefits, etc. So now Americans are left spending an extra $371 a month because of inflation, according to CNN Business. As you can see, rent, groceries, utilities, families are paying a lot more every month to keep up with inflation. As you know, and savings rates are going down. And so even if you're living off the interest of a high yield savings account or something like that, or some kind of CD, or a money market account, or the amount it takes to live with the price of eggs at $12 inflation is costing all of us more money, guys. And it's going to continue to be that. Utilities, healthcare, entertainment, and alcoholic beverages led the way. Now, someone asked last time, do I see the dollar collapse coming this year? I don't think so. The dollar collapse will be coming, but it's not going to be this year because remember, we're still in a global economy. So the pound is against the pound and the yen and the basket of other currencies. The dollar is the least sickest kid in the room right now. Now, that just means it's going to take longer. But that within the next 5 years, the dollar will be under extreme pressure, and a new currency system, I believe, will be introduced, in my opinion, because we're too far in, not just too far in debt, but we're too far gone with the value, the real value of our assets being overinflated than the actual worth of these assets, meaning the commercial, the homes, the cars, everything. So the pain of inflation, some of it has been mitigated by wages that were growing up at a faster pace at a faster pace than inflation. But now we know that the inflation is outpacing the wages, and the inflation is more persistent. Do you see? The inflation is still up, hovering around 8%. Real inflation is at 21%. We know that. So what's happened is that we don't have a parity here between wages and inflation. When that happens, what do you get? A recession, a severe recession. And so this is what we're going to have to look forward to. One of the best things we can do right now is to try to continue to pay down our debts, because you don't want to go into this with high debts, high interest rates, as best we can. Even if we throw an extra $50 a month toward it, we're going to be better off. The next thing we can do is also continue to gather up supplies that we may need, because all of this stuff may not become available. Because remember, we're still under the supply chain crunch. Even though we have this, it appears that in these stores like Walmart, Target, Costco, Sam's, Winco, Ralph's, that we have this kind of excess inventory going on. That's not the case. We're still under the supply chain crunch, dealing with the other countries sending the products over in the shipping lane. So remember that. Keep that in mind. In other news, have a blessed MLK weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your family, friends, and loved ones. God bless. I'll definitely come back this week and talk to you more about more earnings reports coming after the holiday as the stock markets close on that day as well. So God bless. I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you very much for listening. Take care.